fancy word on our paper that you may be accustomed to being in church, but we want to ask the question, what is apologetics? And unfortunately, it's another transliterated word from the Greek New Testament. Apologetics is another transliterated word from the Greek New Testament, and at risk of being redundant, that means that it just slid right over from the Greek to our English language without any kind of translation, turning over, interpretation in our language. So we've got to figure out what that means. We don't see the word in the Bible as a transliterated word. We do see it as a translated word. So we want to find the central passage in the New Testament as it relates to this, and the activity is commanded here, so we want to look at it. Jot this down, 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. Speaking of the suffering and persecuted early church, Peter writes, "But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them," those that are persecuting you, "nor be troubled, but in your hearts honor Christ as the boss, as the Lord, and as holy," right? Honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. Now, we're going to spend a lot of time in this passage tonight, and we're going to deal with this three-word phrase in English, which is a translation. Thankfully, we have a translation here of one Greek New Testament word. Of course, the Old Testament, Hebrew, a few passages in Aramaic, New Testament Greek, Koine Greek, not Attic, not classic Greek. It is an ancient Greek, but it's transliterating in our study tonight, at the bottom of every slide and the top of your page, the word apologia. Apologia. Apo is a compound word, and logia. Apo is a preposition, which are so helpful. Really, the only time I try to, not all the only time, but usually the time I'm going to spend any time in the service dealing with Greek, it's when it's a compound word with a preposition, because those prepositions become great word pictures. And so it is with this, apo. And the word logia is one you should be somewhat familiar with, at least the root of it. Logos, you know, hopefully you use Bible software, and if you use the best Bible software, use Logos Bible software, so you're familiar with that word at least. And certainly if you've been in church, you know that John 1:1 deals with the Word was God, the Word was with God. Remember, all of those phrases translates the word logos. So let's think this through here. Apo is the Greek preposition, which is a directional spatial word. That's what prepositions are, right? They show us the relationship of something to something else. And apo is the word from, or out of, or away from, or off of. That's what the preposition apo is. Lots of great compound words in the New Testament that are connected to apo and huper and pros, and a lot of different Greek prepositions that show us direction. This particular one is speaking of out of, away from, off of. Logia, if you were to translate the word logos, you would say that's the word. Logia is first cousin of that word, and it means a saying or a statement or a charge. So to make a defense, if you see this phrase, defense, in the New Testament, it usually translates the Greek word, either in a noun form or a verb form, apologia. It occurs 17 times in the New Testament, in the Greek New Testament, and I really chose these randomly. Even though this one is Festus, it's not even regarding Christian apologetics, but you'll see Festus talking about Roman legal procedural issues. He says, in regards to the Apostle Paul's case, Festus answers, he's talking to King Agrippa here, he said, it's not the custom of the Romans to give up anyone before the accused met the accuser face to face and had an opportunity to make his apologia, his defense concerning the charge laid against him. So it's a picture of a courtroom, which of course, that's easy to understand. Someone is accused, you have the plaintiff, you have the defendant, and the defendant is defending himself, and that's what you have as a very descriptive, at least in that context, word of someone saying you've been charged with a crime and you need to make a defense for your accusation that's laid against you.